Hey guys, hope you're all well today. Welcome back to another episode of the CE Fish Essentials video blog. I'm Chris Englezu, and today I want to talk to you guys about how you keep fish at home, why you do it the way you do, and also enrichment. And if this is something that you're conscious of, how and why are you conscious of it? What do you do? And if there's anything more you can do. So I'll explain why I'm having this discussion with you today. So I believe that in the next few years, perhaps the next 5 to 7 years, our hobby and wildlife trade in general will come under scrutiny, and will be the trade in wildlife will be reevaluated and potentially could be banned altogether. So looking into these types of things, for example, if you take a look at the 2030 agenda, it's already on the agenda of global governments to address this and to look at the environment and how we can do better for our world. Now, I feel as though if we do not take charge of ensuring that our hobby is more good than bad, or at least presents significant value in terms of enrichment for the wildlife that we keep, and also conservation value for species, that we will not have a chance in hell at being able to keep fish past 2030. So that's why it's important to have these discussions now. So I've been looking at this subject for quite a while now. Many of you who watch my videos will know that I'm an advocate for greater enrichment for fishes in the aquarium hobby, as well as all of the conservation work that I do as well through Freshwater Life Project. In terms of the aquarium hobby, I've kind of devised a sort of scale of enrichment, and this is specific to the aquarium hobby. So at the personal level, there seems to be a scale of very, very sterile aquariums, which many of you will know as bare bottom aquariums. They include minimal to nothing in terms of decor. Moving up, you'll have then the sort of average home aquarium. So you know, you've never kept an aquarium before, you've gone into usually a chain store, usually for your children or something like that, and you've taken the advice of the store clerk, and you've got yourself an aquarium at home. Moving up, I have what is I refer to as the more conscious fish keeper. So this is someone who has greater knowledge than the average fish keeper, and varies between catering to their fish's requirements at different levels, but also can be highly passionate about decor. So aquascaping, for example, the artistic element of fish keeping. there's even terrariums and paludariums, and this sort of thing has really taken off, especially since the pandemic, where people had more time to spend at home and more time to spend doing things they really enjoy. I think during that time a lot of people also had a much greater appreciation of nature, and so if they weren't able to go out to it, which many people were not, they were bringing it into their homes, hence Crazy Plant Man. That being said, I have been keeping plants for many years, but my hobby definitely increased during that time, as many of yours probably did as well. Tell me about it in the comments. Did you get any interesting plants or fish? What did you do? So moving on from there, there's the sort of other end of the spectrum, which is the more what I refer to as the ecosystem approach. So this is where you're focused on not just the visual of the visual presentation of the aquarium and its decor and all of the gadgets and all those amazing things, but also the fish communities, and work towards making them the most compatible they can be. So in most cases this usually involves Biotope aquarium fish keeping, and that, if you don't know, is where you'll try to replicate a very specific part of a very particular river or lake or estuary or whatever it might be, replicating those conditions in an aquarium and using only the plants and fish that exist in that place. So to accompany the biotope, you'll have its corresponding biokinosis, which is its community of living organisms and so on. And so in terms of enrichment, you get a scale. So what happens is, at the kind of more sterile end of the scale of enrichment, you tend to find fish breeders, for example, and there are reasons why they keep the aquariums sterile in that sense. So being able to see waste and remove it easily. When you're feeding a lot to encourage your fish to come into breeding condition, or to encourage small fish, babies, to grow very fast, you need to feed a lot. When you're doing that, you need to be able to change water quickly to remove all of the nitrogenous waste and all of the organic matter from the aquarium that can lead to disease. So bare aquariums are very useful to those type of fish keepers. Usually they're breeders, but also hobbyist breeders tend to do it. You'll see it a lot in the discus fish hobby. They often do it a lot. What you'll have there is minimal enrichment in terms of decor, and you're only the fish in those aquariums are limited to really only two types of interaction. It will be tank mate interaction and then interaction with the owner. So interaction with each other is good for a breeder because the fish are more focused on each other and they're more likely to breed. Interaction with the owner is the fish becomes usually quite aware of the owner because the owner is the source of food. So their two main focuses are each other, or tank mates, and food. That's great if you're a breeder. But in terms of enrichment, it's probably, I think if we're honest about it, it's probably not the most enjoyable way to live. Very low stimulus, very well, at least environmental stimulus, and nothing really new every day. In terms of ethics, this is very low on the scale. So you get the balance between the kind of productive side of fish keeping there, where you're trying to have these prolific breeders and so on, and the scale is imbalanced. Productivity is high, efficiency is high, but enrichment is very, very low. As you move up the scale, you've got the average home aquarium. Usually these are, they do have decor. You might have some, often gravel in the bottom, and some people use plastic plants, some people use real plants, and they'll have some decor, some will be plastic again, which is not the best, guys. We have to try and move away from plastics. But often you can have other things like wood and stuff like that. That it's becoming more available in the hobby now, a wider range of natural decor items that you could use. In these aquariums, you often get more enrichment than a sterile aquarium, but a lack of what I call adapted enrichment. So a lack of enrichment for which species are adapted to actions that fish are adapted to do, say, for example. I don't know if that came out the best way, but I'll give you an example. So you may find that you've put this lovely little plastic skeleton head inside your aquarium, and your little pleco likes to hide inside there. Seemingly it's very happy with that, and to a degree I suppose it is, because it's the only option that it may have. But that species may be more adapted to crevices in between rocks, or dark places beneath wood. You may have a species that is adapted to leaf litter and tends to hide there instead. So there is a sense of fulfillment from that type of decor for the fish, but they're lacking enrichment for which they're adapted, if that makes if that's clear. So I'm going to go to the next one, and then we'll look at what we can do, right? So the next level would be the conscious, the more conscious decor, shall we say. So further up the scale, we're looking at, again, people in the hobby that have more knowledge, so perhaps they are tailoring a little bit more to their fish species. If they keep, say, Corydoras catfish, perhaps they have a sandy substrate instead of a gravel one, because they know that it can damage the barbels, and that Corydoras tend to sift through the substrate like that, which is not very easy with gravel substrates. They may have some surface plants, because they have surface dwelling fish that tend to use those places, or those types of plants in the wild. They may not be exactly the same plants in the wild, but you have that kind of ecological function going on for that fish, and so on and so on. But then you also have the aquascapers, or the people who are really focused in on creating, and it can be some of the most artistic work you will ever see, and it's really amazing. Nowadays the level is extremely high in this type of thing. It's beautiful to watch. I urge you to check out any of the amazing channels on YouTube, but also get in contact with UCAPS, the UK Aquatic Plant Society, if you're based in the UK, and there's also others all around the world where you can start to look more into these things if you're interested. And these type of aquariums can be really good for some species, because they do satisfy that sort of need for enrichment for many species. But what you'll find is that they're often those types of aquariums are decor focused first, and then fish are added in to maybe fill a space, or to add a dash of color, or to complete the aquarium in some way. To, you know, they often can create beautiful pathways that look like terrestrial landscapes, and they'll put a fish in there and the fish will seemingly swim along the pathway, or it will create beautiful imagery, evoke your imagination in many ways. As I say, it's very, very artistic, but not necessarily fish first. On the other extreme, you know, the last part of the scale is, again, what I refer to as the ecosystem approach. So there you're looking not just at the abiotic elements like the rocks, the substrate, the wood, the whatever other decor you tend to use, but you're also thinking of it from the biotic aspect as well, so the living aspect of fish keeping. In an ecosystem, you have the biotope, which is all of the non-living things of the habitat, the aspects of the habitat, and then you have the biokinosis, which is the living community which is associated with that place, that biotope. Together they form an ecosystem, and so in this respect you can build your aquarium around the community of fish that you want to house or take care of. You'll be looking at a stream along the Congo River close to one particular village where some research has taken place, and you can get details on that place, the fish species that live there. Maybe there's some invertebrates that live there or whatever, and then you can learn about the plants, and you can try your best to source some of these things to make the habitat as realistic as possible. It really is what you aspire to. I did as a child always, to have like a little slice of a river in your home. Biotope aquarium fish keeping, or what I refer to as ecosystem aquariums, is really the pinnacle. And in terms of enrichment, is as high as it can possibly go, other than working at some sort of a conservation level. So now, without casting any negative light on any of these four categories, what I'm really here to discuss today is how can we, in all of those categories, if you feel you fit into one of those, maybe you fit into more than one, maybe you do more than one, what can you do to elevate the enrichment and balance out your fish keeping a little bit more? So if you're at the lower end of the scale in the more sterile type aquarium, is there something you could add in terms of decor to enrich your fish's lives without interfering with how you, the productivity of your projects? Perhaps you're a fish breeder, as I say. Is there something more you can do to keep your fish more satisfied and not really interfere with how you keep your fish? And then again, on the opposite scale, maybe you're the most accomplished biotope aquarium enthusiast. Is there more you can do? Perhaps you could participate in a conservation project. Maybe you would do very well there, and that takes me right back to the sterile aquariums. Are you a fish breeder? Could you be contributing to conservation? Could you be breeding a species that's already existing in the hobby that has a conservation threat status, critically endangered or endangered species? There are a number of these species circulating in the hobby which could stand to benefit from being part of a breeding program. I think the discussion I want to have with you guys today is how can you demonstrate more enrichment for your fish at home. I want you to think about that and be like, what more can I do for my fish? Is my aquarium fish first? Is it fish focused? Or is it, am I more focused on the tank? When you, as I say, when you keep plants, as I do, a lot of these plants here, not all of them, but many of them are epiphytic plants. So they require certain substrates, they require things to hold on to. And as a plant enthusiast, I try my best to provide those things so the plants can become the best they can be. Have the biggest leaves, maybe produce an inflorescence or whatever if I'm so lucky. I find this is lost sometimes in the aquarium hobby, and so I want to shift people's focus back and say, are your fish looking the best they can be? Are your fish's behaviors natural? Could you induce more natural behaviors? For example, I kept an amazing group of Synaptolemus latofasciatus. Look them up. They have a very interesting adaptation. Their mouth is turned up. They're in the headstander family. And what you find is that when in a biotope aquarium setup with wood and leaves and branches and all these things, they use the mouth to scrape the wood, and that's their method of feeding. A lot of the times they turn upside down on the lower levels to scrape using the upward turned mouth. They have a voracious appetite for leaf litter. They really enjoy eating plant material, and I could only observe that and learn that about that fish species by keeping them in a biotope aquarium with lots of leaf litter and lots of wood. They were extremely happy and extremely enriched. So, you know, what more can you do to induce more natural behaviors out of your fish and get more out of them? Could you surprise yourself? Let's have this discussion, guys. I think we really need to start pushing this discussion before it's too late and it just comes and surprises us. One day, as I say, our hobby will come under scrutiny, and there needs to be measures in place. All right, so let's talk more, not only at the home level, the personal hobbyist level. Let's discuss the wider level. What more can we do in the trade? This is a very interesting one for me. All right, guys, I'll leave it there, but thank you for your time. Leave a comment, talk to me about this, let's get a discussion going. And if you find this interesting, if you find my channel interesting, please just press the little subscribe button, and if you want to be notified when I put a new video up, just press the little bell and you'll get a notification. Alright, thank you, have a wonderful day, and don't forget, fish first.